welcome. It is time for Stall Talk. I'm Kendra Dickson, and I'm so excited that you are here today because we're going to dig for more answers. And this week's topic is all about what is a rider supposed to do when we get a runny nose. That is a real pain when you're trying to manage reins in your hand. I, for one, feel like it's hereditary. My Nana, when I grew up, she taught me this little trick. She would always wear long sleeves, and she would always tuck a little Kleenex, a little tissue inside her sleeve. And now if you put on any jacket that I own, chances are it's going to be like fully prepped ahead of time. I know to prepare in the event of a runny nose. Martin Patella, life enthusiast, you were just starting to deep dive on this topic last week.
Yeah.
And we had to land the plane. So I've waited all week to get answers as to why my nose runs, especially when I'm riding a horse in the wintertime. I had no idea there was such a deep connection to our overall health, or how this could be a warning sign on the dashboard for us. But go ahead and let's just kind of pick up where we left off last week.
Well,
and thank Life Enthusiast for sponsoring Stall Talk.
Just in a quick review, I started talking about mucosal barriers, your nose and your sinuses and the lungs and your mouth and your digestive system and your reproductive system are all lined with what's known as the mucosal barrier. On the outside, we have this skin that's kind of hardened, protected, easy to resist influences. Whereas on the inside, if you just roll it down here on your lip, you're encountering the mucosal barrier. It's a much more permeable tissue, but in order to protect itself, it creates this layer of mucus. I mean, you encounter mucus when you try to hold a fish, right? The slippery kind of stuff. And then, of course, all of the body parts, all of the parts of the mucosal barrier have the ability to create more mucus. And it creates more mucus when it needs to protect itself from something. Of course, the classic one would be the cold, right? I don't know if you ever stepped outside in minus 25 to minus 40 weather, but when you do that, your nose will start running. It will just actually be running. And if you're a man, you will soon be breaking off icicles that are forming on your beard. Anyway, anybody who lived out in the cold range will know that. Anyway, so the body is protecting itself. So we need to give it the tools to better and more efficiently protect. And the number one ingredient is iodine.
Okay.
Iodine is the element that helps the body to build more resilience at the interface, at the mucosal barrier. The other thing is that, of course, an allergic reaction is a reaction essentially such that the body says, whatever's just coming at me, I'm not happy about. And you can be having an allergic food reaction. You eat something and all of a sudden you will have a belly that's swelling and you will just experience a rapid elimination. And it could go either backwards up out your mouth or outwards the natural direction, but you will still be getting rid of stuff really fast. The other thing that happens to people who are having allergic reactions is that they have to go urinate more often, which is, especially older folks know this from the evening or night, where they can't go all night without getting up. And there's a signaling molecule, it's called histamine. And you would be familiar with histamines or antihistamines from the allergic drugstore department, right? A histamine is the body's saying, I don't like this and I want to defend against it and make something happen that's going to defend. So when you have a histamine reaction up in your nose, you're going to be creating more mucus. You will have a runny nose. And of course, if you have an allergic reaction, you will have it around your eyes, in your nose, and you may also experience it in the digestive system. But I also mentioned the urinary, right? If you have to pee a lot, it's strong urge to go is usually associated with there being too much histamine that your
Okay,
body's.
so I've never heard that. And I think some people, especially, at least for me, working outside, being so focused and passionate about what I do with horses, I don't maybe pay attention to mild or moderate symptoms. They have to be pretty severe for me to actually pay attention to them. I just deal with them and rock on. I forgot to make an announcement when we first started. Bo Peterson, WPRA breakaway roper and barrel racer, was scheduled to speak today as well here on Stall Talk. She just texted last minute she won't make it, but we will reschedule Bo. Martin Patella, back to you. So,
No worries. So, okay, so I'm just describing the physiological stuff that's going on, is that your body is protecting itself. It's saying there's too much ingress, right? There's, I don't know, how do we set this up? Some kind of a defense, right? Like if you have a fence that's trying to keep something out, if it's too short, then it's not going to keep the stuff out.
Right.
So your body's trying to raise the fences or thicken, I don't know, what's the metaphor? Trying to catch mosquitoes with chicken wire is not going to work.
Gotcha.
You need a denser, thicker barrier, right?
Mhm.
So anyway, so there we are. What is the irritant is the first thing. And what is the defense is the second thing, right? It's a balance of life. If your barrier is getting worn, then it's going to be easier and more frequent, then you're going to have that reaction. Reactive to dog hair, cat dander, house dust, pollen of a specific plant, could be cedar, could be western poa grass, I don't know what, whatever. Any one thing, right? Like I discovered in my, well, I'll describe to you my progression. I was a bit of a sickly kid and I would get hives from eating strawberries. And then I grew out of it and I thought, oh, good, I've grown out of it, I'm good. Well, and then in my 20s, I ended up getting poisoned with mercury. Thank you to Dr. Dentist. That was really cool. Well, anyway, so once I poisoned my body, it started going downhill hard. And as it was breaking down, one of the things that showed up were allergies. About 3 or 4 years in after the stuff was put in my mouth. And I would, in springtime, I would be so afflicted that I wanted to gouge my eyes out. It was so unpleasant. And so, of course, I went to the doctor and doctor said, well, we have Sudafed. And I said, well, is that going to cure it? And he said, no, you'll just be taking it for the rest of your life. I didn't think that was a good idea.
No, and Sudafed doesn't work on me. I happen to be allergic to codeine and whatever's in Benadryl and Sudafed. It has the opposite effect on me. So I can't just take a Benadryl and like sleep through the night. Then I'm miserable because I'm really tired, but my brain won't let me sleep. And that is
tired, wired, both stressed at the same time as your, Anyway, so I'm just trying to use my own story as an example, just so you can relate to it. And so some years in, I realized that I was actually toxic with industrial toxins and I needed to detox myself. And so I started on with, of course, the heavy metals, the mercury and all, but with it, when I did the zeolite detox and humic acid detox, all of these things that accumulated in my body started going away. And as the toxic levels were lowering, my allergies started going away. And so after about 10 years of doing cleansing and all of that, all of a sudden I just became not allergic to stuff.
I'd like for mine to go away. Because it is just, it's something that I deal with year round, sometimes worse than others.
Yeah.
And my hands are busy. I am working with horses, as we all are. You're
Yeah.
probably watching Stall Talk because you have horses or you want to have horses. And I know I'm not the only one that suffers from this.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if we need to try and analyze you, right? One of the ways of analyzing things is to take a hair trace mineral analysis, HTMA, where you snip off about a teaspoon's worth of hair somewhere close to the skull, usually under, somewhere where you can't see it.
yeah, that's going to be a problem for Kendra.
Yeah, well, yeah, we could just shave you up a wee bit.
Make like a little,
Yeah,
Or-
we make a little,
Yeah.
I don't know what, a divot.
We'll
Anyway,
find a basic way.
so
Anyway,
you harvest about a teaspoon's worth of hair and send it off to the place that does the analysis. And they send it back to you with, well, we have found this, and whatever. But that's simply just telling you what's wrong or what specifically. It still doesn't change anything about the fact that you still need to detoxify. So I often tell people, look, you can spend $150 on the analysis, or you can spend $150 on doing the detox.
that makes more sense to me.
So you just detox, assuming that you are toxic, and you save yourself $150 because you're going to get better anyway.
And get right to the point.
So that, and but still to this day, I can promise you that if I eat a bunch of cheese or yogurt, dairy, because I don't do well with cows,
Yeah.
I'll have a runny nose. It's called the post-nasal drip. It just out there in the back, it will just keep on going down the throat.
So I know that
my other kryptonite is wheat.
Okay. I don't know about wheat. I haven't paid attention to that. But for me, like I used to celebrate when I won a rodeo. On the way home, I would stop and get chocolate milk and powdered donuts. And if I did poorly at the rodeo, I would stop and drown my sorrows with chocolate milk and powdered donuts. And as the years went on, I was like, why am I getting so sick as I drive home? Like I am miserable. Well, it took me a long time to figure it out because I'm rerunning my run, right? I'm either relishing in the victory or I'm like, what went wrong? I wasn't paying attention to the symptoms fast enough. I am lactose intolerant. So I do not take a bite of cheese or milk or ice cream or anything with that. And I carry those little lactate caplets in my pockets and handbags. I've done that for years.
Yes. So that will help, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
So detox, tell us about it.
Okay, so we have this thing called zeolite. Zeolite is a natural thing that is created when a volcano erupts under seawater. And then, of course, as these things move around, it could be up on land. Most zeolite is used in industrial applications because it's not particularly clean, but it's used very effectively. And it binds metals. It binds things like lead, mercury, cadmium, arsenic, all kinds of stuff that your body should be without.
Could
So
this be stuff that we pick up from being around chemicals and insecticides and fly sprays and stuff like that?
Yeah, all that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a binder. And it's a good thing because it's an electrophysical reaction rather than electrochemical. There's this thing called chelation. Chelation is an electrochemical reaction where you use chelating agents that will bind with the whatever you want out of your body, and then it will get flushed. And typically this can be done orally or through intravenous. EDTA is one of the most famous chelator agents, and we do sell it. We have it available in both pills and in suppositories. Suppository is in fact a very, very good delivery method because whatever you insert rectally, there's a really good supply of blood right in your rectum, and it's a very thin barrier. It's
Before
the
you said that, I was
hemorrhoidal
gonna say,
complex.
I'll
So
take a tablet.
so whatever so whatever you push up into the anal area is absorbed almost as quick as putting it intravenously.
Okay, that's wild. I maybe didn't know that. For some people, it's too much information, but some of you want to know. Aren't you glad you're tuned into Stall Talk? Okay, so zeolite.
Okay, so the zeolite is taken orally, I assure you of that. And we have it available in powder or in capsules or in liquid. The most bang for your money is the powder. If you want it in capsules, you're just spending money on the encapsulation, but it's still fine.
What does it
And
taste like?
Repeat?
What does it taste like?
Chalky.
Okay.
It's powdered. It's a very finely milled thing that has no particular taste.
Okay. So if you want to save money, want the biggest bang for the buck,
Yeah.
get over the taste, drink
Yeah.
the powdery, chalky stuff. Well, I don't like a runny nose, so
You're almost ready to try, yeah?
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, so as we lower the toxic burden, the immune system strengthens. Like my own experience was such that after a few years of detoxing, my liver finally stopped being overwhelmed, right? It's the liver that is involved in detoxification. It's the methylation, right? Methylation is the process by which the liver will neutralize toxic things. But when it's too busy doing other things, it just doesn't have the energy or spare time to do it.
I think that's a strong correlation for a lot of different things. It's making me think about horsemanship. When we're too busy, you said lowering the toxin burden helps our immune system come up. Well, guys, when you lower the activity and the burden and the stress on your horse, it gives the good things time to develop.
Yes. Yeah, very good analogies. Yeah, okay, so there's the zeolite. Humic acid is great to take along with that because it will help to balance that or support the terrain in the gut so that it's not being breached by all the stuff that you eat. Okay. One of the worst things that has happened to us in the last 20 some years was the introduction of glyphosate, Roundup. Okay. The chemical companies have told the farmers that it's all fine. It's all good. Don't you worry about it. Roundup was originally patented as an antibiotic. The way it works, it kills the microbes that live at the rhizome, at the root of the plant. So the plant stops being able to absorb nutrients and it withers. Mm-hmm. When you do the same thing to the human body by ingesting food such as wheat or lentil or garbanzo bean that has been sprayed with this thing, you get only a microscopic dose. It doesn't really kill you as a human, but what it does, it creates this killing field in your gut. It's killing the microbes, being an antibiotic. Well,
okay, so can I stop you real quick? Because there's obviously a debate. There's pros and cons, right? As a land management system, we use Roundup. We use it here on the place. But you're telling me that I don't necessarily have to handle that product, but what I buy at the store likely has, been in contact, and I'm going to get a micro.
Well, it gets less fun
to our horses. If our horses graze that field, which where we use Roundup, my horses don't have access to, but it's just one field over. So what is that potentially doing to their gut health? Because I believe everyone on this Zoom will agree, it appears that we're seeing more gut health issues in horses than we have in decades past. Ronnie, am I right about that? Or is it just that it's education and awareness now?
That's a yes. Well,
I think yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, it gets less fun, Kendra, for the following reason. Many herbicides are not water soluble,
No, no.
but Roundup is.
Ooh,
Okay.
Roundup dissolves and gets into your groundwater. It runs off into your creek and it runs off down into your aquifer, wherever that is. So if your well is somewhere downstream from wherever you're spraying, whether it's you or your neighbor or whoever, it gets in there. These days, it's been analyzed and found that it's raining Roundup in the United States because it evaporates with water
right.
and it's everywhere. It's in the cycle. So even an organic field is now being rained on Roundup.
Okay.
It's not a good thing.
Okay.
You have been sold the product as safe by people who are interested in selling it.
Mhm.
But as in many things, this philosophy of plunder, plunderer comes into the village and kills the men, rapes the women, and steals the cattle. Doesn't care what happens next year, burns the field.
Mhm.
That's the plunder. When the plunderer shows up in America, he just kills the buffalo, plows under the prairie, and goes on, right?
Mhm.
It's an unsustainable model of living. And unfortunately, we need to figure out some ways to manage our weed or the unwanted plant in a way that doesn't create a downstream problem. Roundup, unfortunately, is very, very
Okay, so
a
since
gift that keeps on giving is, let me put it that way.
I live on a ranch where we use Roundup, I
Yeah.
have been, showered by various brands of fly spray my entire life, flea shampoos for dogs. I'm around cleaning chemicals. There's all kinds of stuff that we
Yep.
in our Western lifestyle we
Yeah.
use.
Yeah.
So, and I suffer, and this is so weird. I saw somebody on TikTok, I think it was last night. She's kind of funny, but she's like, when you people complain about bloating, she goes, I understand you feel bloated. It's uncomfortable, like a little bit. She goes, look at this. And she raised up her sweatshirt and she's like, when I bloat, I bloat. That's me.
Yeah.
So is this, from decades of my mucosal linings breaking down in my digestive system, and what can I now do, even if it takes me 10 years to turn the tide, with zeolite? How is that, just from now on? Is that a product?
So zeolite binds the industrial toxins, heavy metals, that would be lead, mercury, cadmium, uranium, all the stuff that comes from guns and brake pads on the cars, and it deals with chemicals like the cleaning chemicals you're talking about, I forget, tetrachlor, or I don't know what stuff that you might have sitting around, paint thinners and the likes. It's good for that. But it won't touch the Roundup problem.
Okay.
The Roundup problem is transient, it's repairable, but you need to essentially stop the flow of it. It comes with the grain if the grain was sprayed. It comes with the lentils if the lentils were sprayed. It comes with walking on the ground that was sprayed, and so on. So it just gets into the environment. Here's an analogy for you. If a human were a plant, the soil would arrive through the mouth into the pipe that runs between your mouth and your anus. The pipe that runs through you, about this diameter, that's the outside running through the middle of you. The best example I could give you is an earthworm. right? That's a straight line. Well, we're a little more complicated, but the outside is inside of me. And in the small intestine, there are villi that are illustrated like this, right? Little things that look like fingers, except they're tiny.
Mhm.
And they would be like the roots of the plant that would be reaching into the soil that is brought in fresh every day so that the nutrients can be extracted by the gut through the villi into the bloodstream.
Mhm.
So whatever happens on the root side of things, which would be the gut stuff, the stuff we ingest, if we ingest chlorine, drinking in chlorinated water, we're killing the microbes. If we ingest industrial drugs, whether they are ibuprofen or Tylenol or you name it, whatever, those are toxic things that you're throwing into the mix, right?
Mhm.
Antibiotics, of course, they even have it in their name. They kill life.
Mhm.
Well, and Roundup is an antibiotic. So all of that is going to be killing the life within you so that it can no longer do what it's meant to do. That's the problem.
And over time, that's when we see it. Well, and now I'm just starting to connect the dots with horses and gut health. And there's
Yeah.
so many companies like ADM Forage First. I wanted to pick Bo's brain today because she's an ADM rider. She
Mhm.
feeds ADM Forage First feed. They are, all about the horse first. They talk a lot about gut health. We heard multiple top 15 athletes at the NFR who also ride with ADM and they feed their products. They talked about the gut health
So
benefits.
what do we know about their products that we can say? Is it grown on fields that are free of what?
Well, if it's raining Roundup, it might be a moot
There are
point.
levels of things, right? Like if it's raining Roundup, it's a microgram in a drop. When
Uh-huh.
you take a watering can and pour a gallon of it on an acre, it's a whole different story,
Gotcha.
right?
Well, and I'm new to ADM, so I am learning these things.
Let's find out.
Yeah.
Let's find out. I would venture to guess is that this guess that they probably go more organic or biodynamic than not.
Mm-hmm.
That they would probably use natural ways rather than industrial toxic ways. Like there are many ways. I mean, once you discover this soil method that they call regenerative agriculture,
Mm-hmm.
which is going back to the pre-industrial age where we did crop rotation and where we planted this with that, like plant your bean that's going to put nitrogen back in the soil. And there's a whole lot of agriculture know-how that's there that that can be learned. This is not my expertise, but I'm somewhat aware.
Yeah, nor is it mine. I mean, I know a little bit about small management. So the benefits of having like guineas and chickens and ducks to like aerate your land, but
Yep.
you can't do that if you're managing 3,000 acres.
Right.
Like that's
Yeah,
not.
that's the industrial scale that has brought us to phenomenally inexpensive food, and we're getting about as much as what we're paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess just to be really clear, today the food is cheaper than it's ever been, but its value is also less
Mm-hmm.
because there's not stuff in it that should be, and there's stuff in it that shouldn't.
And think of how many people that can't, like, there is not an option. You have no way to source your own food. You are dependent on the chain. Like
Yes.
we don't live that way anymore. Society has evolved. And it's interesting. I was listening to Stephen S. Hoffman. They call him Captain Hoff. And he talked about what is coming in the next 30 years, guys. We think it's amazing that a phone could be in the room and, oh, wow, it must be listening to me. Yeah, like
Yes.
we're get ready, because that's just the beginning. Like that is such a teeny tiny thing. They're so far ahead of us, guys, and being able to print food. I didn't know that. They can print food, the not natural, so it's not going to be real chicken, it's not going to be real beef. That is all in the future, because we have gotten away from sourcing our own food.
Yeah. You know, when I think of that future, I think that future is going to be a dead end. 'Cause-
Well, he
anyway,
talked
that's my
Yeah.
opinion.
he talked
Anyway,
about
one day you should
evolve.
try. Yeah, one day
Yeah.
you should try and look up Dr. Zach Bush, ZACHBUSH. He's lectured many times. I don't know if he'd take the time to talk to our little group, but his lectures are on YouTube, and he's very eloquent, and he explains the futility of fighting nature instead of harmonizing with it.
Mhm.
He does a very good job of it.
Yeah, so this guy was talking about people that they want to ship to Mars and let the human race evolve to where it can, be
Sure.
able to exist on Mars. It's a 6-month trip just to get there. And they talk about how miserable the first humans there are going to be. Who would sign up for that? But that's what their plan is. It's crazy, guys. Like here, Lori and I are sitting over here with the Stall High app going, woo, we are running with technology. And like the ability to measure, review my ride, and the physics of it, and kind of dipping our toe in the water of neuroscience. And there's a whole other world out there. Like there's a whole other, percentage of the population so far ahead of us that it's pretty mind-blowing. So even though these are hard conversations to have, guys, and you may be listening now, or you may be listening to a replay, and you may immediately get defensive because you've been using Roundup for however many years and it serves you well. There's nothing wrong with having the conversation. And we do need to think beyond our own 3,000 acres or 3 acres. I don't know how much you own. That's a moot point. We are a community, we are a society, we are a nation, and I, for one, love the learning process more than I ever had before. So
restoring the health in the gut. We were talking about becoming very bloated, and the bloat is essentially the effect of many, many micro injuries. If you could visualize hitting your thumb with a hammer, the next thing that happens is it's going to swell up and be throbbing and be unusable, right? Which is redness, heat, swelling, and loss of function, plus pain. So if this same sort of an injury were happening inside your gut, because you're pushing stuff into your gut, let's just visualize a billion tiny little hammers hitting every single cell in your gut, each one of them responding the same way as your thumb did, by redness, swelling, heat, pain, and loss of function. And the swelling is essentially water rushing in so that we can try to repair stuff, right? Like if I punch you in your face, it will swell up, right?
Yeah.
No,
So that's
okay.
happening internally.
So
And
inside your gut,
is that our stomach bloats, which
that's because your small intestine is taking on water in response to the injuries. And so you're going from flat belly to 6 months pregnant inside of 4 hours.
And I for one prefer the flat belly, especially when
Of course you do. Sign of health. But there's the thing, right? The micro injury was caused by whatever happened only an hour earlier.
Fast. It does happen fast. So zeolite, we can find that on Life Enthusiast.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's something that we stay on long term, or supplement?
So when I
Right.
was first doing the detox, I was taking a dose that was like zeolite, you pee it out every 4 hours or so, doesn't stay in your body very long. So I was taking a dose every, morning, lunch, dinner, bedtime, on and on and on, all the time.
Mhm.
These days, I just take one capsule in the morning as my insurance policy because I know that I still ingest, I go eat some fish. If I eat tuna, I know I'm getting mercury.
Mhm.
If I get in the car and drive in city traffic, I know I'm getting brake pads, metal dust. I'm inhaling that because every time you brake, you're just wearing the metal. That's
Dude, we have tractors and diesel and like
Yeah.
there's generations of grime on every piece of equipment we own.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
every day.
go handle aluminum pipe, right? For
Yeah.
irrigation. You come home shiny. Well, guess what? You have just absorbed a whole bunch of aluminum. Your body needs to deal with it.
Mhm. Um, if zeolite doesn't detox the Roundup, is there anything that does?
You need to restore the balance. Humic acid, which is the essence of dirt, is what we need to supplement. And then we
Humic-
have, I didn't hear, humic, Humic.
Humic
It got its name from humus, which is essentially the stuff, the difference between desert and soil is humus, compost.
Martin, what's
Sorry.
what is that similar to diatomaceous earth?
No, ma'am. Diatomaceous earth is a silica. These are the skeletons of diatoms. That's a wonderful thing. It provides you with bulk, and it's also very sharp edged. So it also will chop up all of the parasites that are trying to take hold in your gut. So diatomaceous earth is a good thing. By the way, there's a product in Life Enthusiast called Strataflora,
Okay.
which is a rebuild your gut, and it has diatomaceous earth and probiotics and prebiotics and great many other things. So for people who are suffering with a broken elimination or digestion elimination, they will find quite a bit of comfort with that.
So will that help me?
Yeah. Well, we need to detox you with zeolite, and we need to push the Strataflora on you. And
Okay.
we probably need to put humic acid into your daily routine.
Okay. And I know it's hard to give me like an exact time frame, but when I do these things, will I notice a difference in 90 days? Is it going to take 6 months? What is that? What
Yeah.
is that turnaround?
We estimate that it takes about a week of repairs for every year that you were damaging. So you probably have about a 30 weeks worth of recovery, of which, when you look back from 4 weeks in, you say, I'm better now. And when you look back from 12 weeks in, you'll say, oh, I'm way better now. So it's a gradual, right? I mean, as you go downhill, you go in, it's never a straight line. It's just you go and you say, at 25, I was this. And at 35, something happened, some kind of an event, something, whatever. And life was worse since then. And
Disrupted.
a certain ability was lost. And
Yep.
then something happens at, I don't know what number, 47. I don't know. And boom, you go through a gate. It feels like a one-way ticket. All of a sudden, something isn't like it used to be. Anyway, so we can rebuild, we can come back up, and it also doesn't happen in straight line. It's build up, something lost, build up more, something lost. It's 3 steps forward, 1 step back kind of thing. But we do get a lot of function back when we start doing the right stuff.
Well, and before we click live and went on to multiple platforms today, we were talking about how cool it is to learn more about our brain and dip our toe into neuroscience. And I'd heard an audiobook this morning just talk about the size of the room matters depending on what kind of task you're working on. When you want to be real creative and you want things to flow and you have like you want to dream big and set big goals, go outside or be in a big open space with a high ceiling. Scientific, they've done studies on this, so they have proof, research to prove it. Well, when you want to be more detail oriented and task focused, if you'll get in a space with a lower ceiling and things are a little bit closer, that changes your productivity because it changes your mind.
Yeah.
And you had said we really have more control than we think. And that's the way we end this session. We do have more control than we think. I don't have to live with this little tissue. I don't have to repeat my Nana's life cycle and carry a little, security tissue with me all the time. That's a pain. It's a real pain when you're on camera and you're riding a horse.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to mention, I said before, pH balance on the inside. This is the acidity, which causes the anxiety, or the alkalinity, which may cause depression. We control that with our food inputs, depending on our metabolic type. Either the fat is calming or the starches are calming, or vice versa. You need to figure yourself out, each of you individually. It's not universal. It's like left-hand drive, right-hand drive. I can't tell you which you are. You need to figure out. But once you know, if you're anxious, you're overly acidic. You can undo that.
Dr. Martin, do you believe that us that deal with horses and animals a lot, that we could possibly have parasites?
Yeah,
a lot of
parasites are really a big deal. We all should be deworming twice a year, spring and fall.
That's a good question.
When you tie calves enough with a pigging string and you
Mhm.
tie enough of them down,
Oh, I just got that
Yeah.
visual.
yep, buddy, that is a fact.
Yeah.
Or you're around cattle enough and do what we've done, you
Yeah.
learn to keep your mouth shut.
Yes, ma'am. Or yes,
That's
sir.
a fact. Yes, sir.
There's this lovely thing called ivermectin, which
Yeah.
has got so much press lately, and it
It's
does so good.
We use it.
So I have a question about that just real quick, and maybe you can answer this, maybe not, but someone had brought that up recently, and they take the liquid form because they trust the concentration to be the same. But they said if you take the tube and you're administering a tiny drop at a time, you may not get the same,
Right.
may not get the
Yeah.
same dose. It may not be distributed in that paste the same. A horse would probably take the whole slug, and so they're going to get it. But if I'm just doing a dollop a day, a little dab will do ya. I may not be
Right.
getting a consistent dose.
Okay.
What people don't understand about Ivomec, it was designed for humans in the beginning.
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
It is not that came out-
America, as in United States, is the exception in the world because it's so controlled by the pharmaceutical industry.
Right.
Everywhere else on the planet, it's over the counter, and you want some, come get it.
Yep.
Just south in Mexico, you just walk into any drugstore and pick it up.
All
Um,
kinds of
As far as the homogeneity of the product, that's the issue here. Yeah, okay, it's easier to make liquids more homogeneous than paste, or just take it once a month. You don't need to take it every day. It's a silly thing to be hitting yourself all the time.
Well,
I
I
would
took
say-
it every day during COVID as
No, I would
as
still do
instructed.
once a month, 12 milligram for a human.
12 mil.
Well, whatever the veterinarian tells you to give to a horse, which would
Uh-huh.
be a 1,200-pound animal. Well, take a tenth of that as a 120-pound animal, you'll be fine.
Okay.
One cc per 100 pounds.
1 cc per 100 pounds.
That's about how you figure it. We get ours. It's a vet at Borica, and he has his compounded, and it is a liquid,
Mhm.
and you just pull it up in a syringe, and
Squirted it.
you got it on the syringe, you got how many cc's it is.
Yeah.
And we need to shoot it in your mouth. Has an apple flavor to it. You can put it in, you can just squirt it in your mouth or put it in a soda pop or coffee or something and drink it.
Yep.
Works pretty good.
I want to make sure that the public knows, if you're watching now or replays, I'm not a doctor.
No, I'm not a doctor either. Talk to your veterinarian.
So we're not giving you medical prescriptions or subscription. We're just sharing stories about what we do and what we've heard other people do. So it is completely your choice to make, but we do want you to be a more educated horse owner and a more educated rider so that you can be a better steward of your horse. And that means taking care of yourself too. And that's what we're all about in 2023, so that we can rodeo stress-free. It's a pretty lofty goal, guys. But like Martin just said, we control more than we realize. And we don't have to put up with things that stall us. You're really not stalled physically as much as you think you are.
Yeah.
There are answers. And when you have the answers, it makes things
Yeah, your horse is probably more
easier.
intuitive. Yeah, your horse is probably more intuitive than you are. So if you do what the horse wants to do, you'll probably end up in a better place.
Well, you definitely made us think through situations. And now I'm thinking, like, how much contact of my horses that have had gut issues over the years, how much contact did they have with ground, soil, plants, hay, stuff like that,
Yeah.
and I'm going to have a conversation with Chad tonight and find out, like, what are we spraying the fields with? Because our coastal hay is kicking. Like, we make really good hay, but now I have to think all the way through that system, right?
Is it,
So what
is it
is
a toxic
what's
hay
the
or is it a
downside?
healthy hay?
Does it have toxins? If so, how much? And how much is that affecting my horse's performance? And I haven't even considered it. So
Yeah.
this was a great talk, Martin. I appreciate your expertise every week. We appreciate you supporting Stall High with Life Enthusiasts. Guys, if you are watching right now and you want to learn more about Martin Patella, and if you want to seek his advice for you personally, there's a system where people can download that. They can go through a diagnostic tool with you. They can be coached by you personally. You have an amazing website full of natural options, so that we can restore and regain our health. And it's wonderful. We appreciate what you're doing and what you've committed your life to doing. We're going to drop the link. So if you have any questions, guys, look at the link below. It's life-enthusiast.com. Ronnie, Patricia, Lori, thank y'all for being here. Kevin, this is a good talk.
Every day.
All righty, guys. Thank you so much for being part of Stall Talk. If your horse is physically healthy and still not working and you can't figure out why, we're here to help you. That's what we really want to accomplish at Stall High. That's why we created the online mentor program, where you can either watch hundreds of hours in the training library at a DIY pace, or you can attend one class per week, pick your pro, or you can come to unlimited classes per week. They're live every night at 6 p.m. Ronnie Clampett right there is our coach on Friday. We have an amazing team of mentors to help you get to the root reason of why your horse is not responding to your hands. It's typically going to have a mechanical deficit somewhere. There's a mechanical reason to it, but more times than not, it has had a mental impact. And how severely depends on the circumstance and the horse and a whole lot of things. You can't just slap a Band-Aid on it. That's what I got to. I'd purchased so many Band-Aids in my horse career that I was going nowhere. And it was expensive and it was very frustrating. And that's when one person challenged me to rethink everything I was doing about barrel racing. She pulled me out of the flow of the majority. And she said, stop listening to people, stop following the crowd, start listening to your horse. And that's when my life changed. And that's when this cool horse came along and helped us get in the top 15 more than I ever thought was possible. So I love telling those stories. If you want to learn more, download the Stall High app, look us up, info@stallhigh.com. My team and I are here to help you have a great next ride. Y'all have a great afternoon. I'll see you tonight at 6 o'clock in the interactive group.